zakat is sometimes called tzedakah. So I don't know. I don't know if kahila is a word, but ummah is the same as So the but we know that the ummah is not really ummah, right? And that's why uh, and it works the other way too, because you have all the Salafi Muslims who are black and like in jail, and the one Arab guy in jail, he's not like really, he's not really part of the Ummah, even though he was like raised Muslim from Syria, this and that, but and he grew up speaking Arabic, and you don't even know how to make salat, but you're really the Ummah because you follow the Salaf. That's just how it is. We all do the same thing. We all have this. Let them all go to hell except Cave 76. Ideology, but let's embrace it instead of having. And that's the one thing that at least the American Salafi. I don't mean the Wahhabists. I mean like the black Salafis from Philadelphia. They're apolitical, right? So at least they're not bothering anyone else. They just want to do their thing. And the same thing, the Amish and all the others, they just want to do their thing. Although at least the Amish this year saw the threat that Biden was, and they went out and they voted for President Trump, but the fraud canceled their votes. The people who actually voted got their votes canceled by the fraud. But that's the world we live in. But this is what I'm talking about, liberalism, meaning I don't want the government. I remember Rabbi Lapin. He said that like he had a dinner with like the president of the school board of New York City or something like that. A non-religious Jewish lady, quote unquote Jewish, and she said, how can you support Pat Robertson? He's going to make the Pope the King of America, whatever. Like what? What are you talking about? And you're like, you don't know the difference between Protestant and Catholic, and you're the head of the school board, meaning the president of this, not just the head of the school board, but like, New York City, like a big thing, like the superintendent something or other. I don't know what she was, but like that just shows two sides to ignorance. One is like she didn't know the difference between Protestant and Catholic, but the other thing was like there's this thing like everyone who is a statist, everyone who like wants everything to be run their way, pretty much thinks that like everybody else wants to do that to them. I mean, whatever they want to do to everybody else, which is like the Democrats want everybody to be leftist, woke, this and that, and so like they think that like the Republicans wanted just the same way that the Democrats want to force everybody to be their way. They imagine that the Republicans want to force everyone to be their way, and like, and then so it's a clash of, pretty much, Lenin versus Trotsky type of thing. Meaning they both want the same thing, just who's going to be the animal that's more equal than the other animals. That's what we're down to, right? But that's not how it is. The Republicans are not the alt-right. The alt-right are the fascists. And Donald Trump is not an alt-right guy. We thought he was in 2016 because we didn't know who he was. He didn't have any record. But once he proved himself, he was the most liberal president that we've had in forever. He was, and Clinton was kind of liberal, but President Trump was much more liberal than Clinton. Meaning liberal in the sense of, you do your thing and I do my thing. I'm not going to force you to do anything. I'm going to deregulate everything. Like, how did they call the guy who deregulated everything a fascist? He wasn't trying to get the trains to run on time. He was just trying to let you do your thing. He was trying to give freedom to everybody. He was making opportunity zones. What is an opportunity zone? He wasn't saying, you shall prosper. He's like, you want to prosper? Go ahead and prosper. I'm not going to get in your way. And that's what I mean about liberal. He didn't care. The whole thing me as a religious guy, I'm upset about with the the redefinition of marriage and stuff. I don't like it personally, but he didn't care. That wasn't even on his radar. He was always liberal about that, but like really liberal, meaning like you do your thing, but I'm not going to shove it down your throat either. That's what I mean. Meaning the left, they're like, if you don't do things our way, you're a bigot, you're a this, you're that. When they're the bigots, meaning they're the ones who are pretty much projecting their ideology on everybody else. The Democrats imagine that everybody else thinks like them. Whereas the Republican ideology, the authentic, classical liberal, libertarian-leaning, liberty-loving, rugged individualist American ideology is, you do your thing, I do my thing. Like the Christians say, live and let live, right? But we really have now with Biden, like the Beatles said, live and let die. That's what's going on now. People are getting killed because people didn't like the mean tweets, and they're like, oh, Trump would have done the same thing, which he wouldn't have. First of all, he definitely would not have left the whole Air Force to the Taliban. I think we can all agree on that, right? President Trump was not planning on just leaving a whole bunch of stuff to the Taliban. He was either going to bring it home or he was going to destroy it. He wasn't going to just leave it there. Can we agree on that? Idiots on Twitter who said, oh, Trump, he would have done this. He made a deal, and if they broke the deal, then they broke the deal, and he wasn't going to automatically do that. We're still in Germany, we're still in Japan, we're still in South Korea. We could still be doing peace forces in Afghanistan. All that the President Trump wanted was the war aspect. But the peacekeeping, helping the Afghan army, that was probably going to continue. And certainly if the Taliban broke their part of the deal, which we knew they were going to do anyway, that would have given us an excuse to fight back and wipe them all out. That's really what Donald Trump would have done. And he wouldn't have had, ground forces. He would have bombed the Ifrit out of them. So that's my new thing. It's part of my French, part of my Ifrit. That's together with Planned Parenthood, my new... I'm going to have to make a t-shirt before someone else does about stopping Planned Parenthood. With emphasis on the hood again. Maybe have a hood with a stethoscope. But that's what we got here. That's what's going on. So that's what I mean. Meaning, and notably, President Trump was very pro-life. Why? Because if you really care about human beings, don't bring up the most extreme examples when it comes to these questions of abortion, like the most horrible extreme examples, because like Ben Shapiro says, would you agree, if I would agree in those cases it's okay to have an abortion, right? So would you agree in the other cases it's not? And the answer would be no. So then you're bringing a false argument, but it's more than that. Because there is a genocide against black babies in America by Planned Parenthood. So it's really going on. And it's been going on forever. They're lynching in the womb. Like Dick Morris said, there is a good, compassionate reason to support gun control or to be pro-choice in the abortion debate. There is certainly place for that, but we cannot ignore the racial grounds and the racial history and the racist history of both Planned Parenthood and gun control. You know, Martin Luther King probably would still be alive today if he had a gun. But the Democrats in the South would not let him have one. You know, he was a pretty young guy when he died. You know, I remember in the first prison where I worked in Virginia, the federal prison, there was a Nation of Islam guy, and he said that Martin Luther King was the most Christ, and you know, Nation of Islam, they're not big fans of Martin Luther King, right? And he said Martin Luther King was the most Christ-like person in the 20th century. And you think about it, and I'm not a Christian, that guy's not a Christian, although the Nation of Islam certainly has a lot of Christian undertones in their theology. But you got a guy who was murdered when he was in his 30s for preaching his message that wasn't popular with a lot of people who were in power. Whether or not the story of Jesus is true or a myth, which I tend to say that it's more of a myth, I don't think that the Christian so-called Gospels are historically accurate documents. But still, the myth is important in America and in the West, at least as much as the Greek and Roman myths are, and the Norse myths and so forth. It's part of the, you know, where America comes from. And this guy, Martin Luther King, he was there. He was it. You know, he lived up to that guy that he looked up to. And he died just like him. But he would still be, you know, Martin Luther King would still be alive, at least, you know, according to the story that they tell, right? Martin Luther King would still be alive if there wasn't gun control. He applied for gun permits, and he was denied because of his activism or because of the color of his skin. I don't know, right? But I don't think James Earl Ray would have even thought of shooting a guy that he knew was armed, or that he knew had bodyguards and all, you know, even though, right, it was far away and this and that, but still, you know, gun control just makes people into sitting ducks. A gun-free zone means a criminal will not respect that sign that says this is a gun-free zone, right? That's what we're faced with. That's why a lot more people got killed in Pittsburgh in that temple there than in the synagogue in Poway, because in Poway there was a good guy with a gun. So, and that's what I mean about liberalism, meaning gun control is not liberal. Gun control is leftist. Although Rabbi Bar Tzadok likes to use the term gun control to mean like we should control the guns, the people, and not the government. But I'm saying like government gun control, you know, with the left ones, that's not liberal. What's liberal about that? Oh, so then what about abortion? It's my body, it's my right, this and that. And again, there's good arguments on both sides, this and that. But there's a Freedom Tunes video where this guy, he was saying, you know, I am personally opposed to, you know, it's one thing about redefinition of marriage, to be personally opposed. You're not hurting anybody being personally opposed or for it, and this and that. And, you know, you have your ideas of what that means and so forth. All right, whatever. When it comes to abortion, though, you know, there's someone, they're going to say they're personally opposed, right? And so, like, there's a guy being beaten up in an alley, and, like, the other people watching, well, I'm personally opposed to this, but I'm not going to have anybody stop this, but I'm personally opposed to it. And then, you know, so because really the whole abortion thing, it's not about those extremely rare cases where the mother's life is in danger. And even someone pointed out, when you're saving a mother's life and that incidentally terminates a pregnancy, that's not an abortion. That's an incidental termination of a pregnancy to save the mother's life, which is what Judaism not only permits but encourages when possible, perhaps mandates. But that's not an abortion. That is women's health care. But when you call Planned Parenthood and you say, can I earmark my donation to communities that are majority people of color, that's a genocide. So then, all right, people ask about other cases, and again, perhaps where there is a serious issue, where there's a mental health issue. Mental health is just the same as physical health. Someone's going to commit suicide if this pregnancy is not terminated. Again, you want to make an argument for that. You can make arguments for it. But it's not an issue of liberty. It's an issue of health when you have an actual case where there's what to discuss that you have to fix. It's not using abortion as a form of birth control, which is really the foundation of what a lot of this comes down to. Not just birth control, but population control, race control. That's what it's really about. It's eugenics. It's those people at the cocktail party in The Great Gatsby talking about inferior races. That's what this movement is really all about. So that's why I say, meaning I'm a liberal in the sense of, you want to be a Reformed Jew and go to hell, that's your business. But just the same, you don't take away my right to be ultra-Orthodox Hasidic or Amish or whatever else. You want to be an atheist, you do that on your side, and you don't force me, and I'm not going to force you, and they can all go to hell except Cave 76. That's what I mean by liberal. And the thing is with that being said, if we have something that will work in a free market, where there's competition, there's an open free market, the cream is going to rise to the top. Meaning, in Europe, where the government runs all the religion, in a lot of the European countries, either that or there is forced secularism, like in France and like for a long time there was in Turkey. So all you're going to wind up is with mediocre religion. The mediocre young Duke of York. And now, this is mediocre old Duke of York right now. Worse than mediocre criminal, disgusting and evil Duke of York right now. People don't know what's going on with the Duke of York. And but I don't know about the Duke of Earl, but we can talk about that later or sing about it. Anyway, what am I talking about here? You wind up with mediocre religion when government runs everything. And that's why in Israel, give them the freedom. Don't have the government, a lot of people are turned off from religion because the government is forcing it down their throats. Whereas if you had freedom, maybe a lot of people would be like, well, maybe I'll consider this now because it's my choice and not the government forcing me. So as long as, it's the same thing, if you think that your thing is so great, well, in the free market, without forcing other people, without using government to force other people, you got your thing, and you sell that on the free market, and And it's the same thing on both sides. This is why I argue against groups like Yafed. I'm not necessarily against their stated goals, which I don't believe to actually be their goals. I'm against their methods of having the government using laws that are actually rooted in institutionalized bigotry. Meaning the New York State law of, what do they call it, substantial equivalency, that is rooted in anti-Catholic bigotry. That's where that comes from, because they wanted to shut down the Catholic schools. So, so this is what I'm talking about, liberalism, meaning the Catholic Church in America, in a way, is more vibrant and diverse and so forth than in any quote-unquote Catholic country, because you have choices, you have the what do you call it, what's the word I'm trying to think of right now, competition, right? Same thing when the Baruch Moshe was nifter, right? So you had two Satmar Rebbe's, which you already kind of had before, Well, now there's competition. They can't, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, and I remember all the Satmars, if they had like more than 50 cents, they're going to send their kids to Pupa or Spinka or this one or that one or Krasna. They're not going to send their kids to Satmar, because Satmar is just kind of like, that's like almost like sending your kid to public school. Like, I'm saying, like, where unless you were like really a Verbrenter Satmar. Like I remember, like when I was a Madrich in Machne Kayetz, Brother Roof was the only one who like really sent his kids to Satmar. Meaning even Chesko Roth's kids, Einiklach were learning in Pupa, So, like, because that was the competition. But now, and we're talking about now, it's 15 years later, but Rabar and Zalman Leib, they had to compete. They each had to offer something better, and I think Rabar's doing a little bit better job. But and I have kids in Zalman Leib schools. The girls are doing okay, but that's how it is. So, what am I even talking about here? I'm probably talking about, making references to Islam and Hasidic Judaism and Catholicism that a lot of people might not even understand, but I like to talk to people like they're adults. I like to respect everybody and not talk down to anybody. So I'm just going to say my piece and apologize if you don't understand. If you have questions, maybe I could try to explain. That's what the comment section is for below. I'm not turning off the comments here. I'm giving you the opportunity to interact here. If you made it this long, 49 minutes, I was probably divided into 2 videos by now. So that's it. I'm almost to my wedding that I have to do today. I was supposed to have 3, and the other 2 people couldn't get their marriage licenses. Hopefully Thursday, or maybe another day. We'll see what happens. But thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. And we'll see you. Here's another example of my liberalism. Last night I went to 10:30 slichas instead of 1 a.m. because I knew I had to get up and go do this wedding. So, Baruch Shalom Shav Rachmanis. But I would probably have been pretty superstitious about that when I was a kid. But now I learned. Even if it's maybe not the right thing, and I know Rav Ovadia was against saying slichas before chatzos, whatever. But Rav Moshe, who generally we're not listening to, and this and that. But for Allah of Rav Moshe, he was the Gadol Hador. Even and because really Meir Kardin, it's not even in Chazal to say slichas. It's just something we do. So it's not like an actual chiyuv. Not even midirabanan, it's a minig. It's a strong minig, and it's something we're supposed to do, but we can design a bissel makel, as I is this. So, it's chatoyin and masker ayam, it's zugen slichas of the slichas, like we say, Rabbi Melech said, so these avodas and shoyim that I did, I was saying slichas at 10:30 instead of 1 a.m., the Boyne Shalom should do tshuva me'ahava on that big avera, and the Boyne Shalom should turn into schus, and we can have the audacity, because the Rebbe Melech taught us that we could have that audacity to ask the Boyne Shalom to turn our averas into schusim, because Reish Lakish taught us that, and we believe in what Chazal say. So that's it. I've rambled on for an hour. I got a lot of learning to do. So thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. And we'll see you all later. Take care.